Hi, everybody. This is Ed. I'm the pastor at Speed Memorial Church in Sellersburg, Indiana. And it's Thursday Thoughts. And our thought for today is relationship. Simple, but also deep. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because someone said to me, I heard the other day that someone said, yeah, following Jesus is not about religion. It's about relationship. And I just thought to myself, I've heard that for a number of years, ever since I started following Jesus, that phrase, it's not about religion, it's about relationship. And I've always just kind of went along with it, never really, it sounded right. And so I never really stopped to think about it. And so, I've been pondering it. And so I just wanted to share some thoughts that I had about it. And hopefully that will provoke or inspire thoughts within you or conversations, which is the whole reason that we do Thursday Thoughts, is to inspire conversation or to inspire a contemplative state where you think about this and your relationship with Jesus. And relationship is it's tough to nail down exactly what a relationship is. It's, two objects who have some sort of entity, and between the two objects is a relationship. The relationship doesn't exist inside of either of the entities. The relationship is something that's between them. And so that makes it a little harder to nail down because as humans, we can have a relationship with money. We all want more of it. But if you dig a little deeper, sometimes we find out that our relationship with money has more to do with security or comfort or a desire for identity. And so then our relationship isn't with money so much. It's a relation. One part of our mind we're having a relationship with our desire to be secure, or a desire to help people, or our desire to have power. It's not just money. It's not as simple, because relational value is something that's deeper inside of us, and it's harder to recognize because we operate on a physical plane, but so many times relations exist on a spiritual plane or a emotional plane, and so when you say following Jesus it's more about relational ideas rather than religious ideas. You have to just be careful and think about it so you know exactly what you're saying, because there's nothing wrong with religion. There are some great traditions and great rituals that have come out of religion. And I thinking of Christmas now that it's near the end of October. I'm like, I love Christmas traditions and I love the songs and all that. But in terms of a relational value with Jesus, that's something I have to think about. One way to look at relational value maybe is like, think of a high school dance, and you have Bob and you have Mary, and they're both at the dance, and they had math class together or something. They've never really talked to each other, but they've caught eyes a couple times, and they're at the dance, and maybe Bob wants to go over and ask Mary to dance, or Mary wants to go over and ask Bob to dance, and they're at the dance and the music's playing, and but they just kind of look at each other or glance at each other, and they never really cross the dance floor to talk to each other. And so their relationship, they're not really having a relationship. There's no relationship between Bob and Mary. The relational value in that context is that they're at the same dance with a group of people. And so the relational value is between them as a group and the dance. They're having, that's where you're going to find any kind of a relationship. They're in the same room. They're at the dance. And so I think the key component to evaluating a relationship is the involvement of the entities and how they interact with each other. And we're talking about humans, animate things. We're not talking about inanimate things like a relationship, apple to an orange. That's not concerning us right now. It's more of, what do they mean when they say following Jesus is about a relationship? And I think the key component is involvement. In order for there to be a relationship between Bob and Mary in the dance, is Mary has to come across and ask Bob to dance, or Bob has to go across the floor and ask Mary to dance. And then once that happens, the relational value shifts and the dance disappears in terms of what we're examining, because it doesn't matter where they are necessarily. What matters is that they are now involved with each other at a conversational level, at a whatever level. They are now involved in a relationship with each other. At first, though, they may have been involved in a relationship with fear. That's what they did. That's why they didn't cross the floor to talk to each other. There may have been some kind of a relationship with shame, some kind of a relationship with the past or judgment. Things that strike inside of a human being. And sometimes we find ourselves thinking we're having a relationship or wanting to say we're at the same dance with somebody, but our relationship is more with fear or with awkwardness or lack of confidence or whatever you want to put it into, whatever. And we have to look below the surface for relationship. And so that's just what I think about when I'm thinking about Jesus. There has to be, I think what they mean is there has to be an involvement by a person with Jesus. It's not just being in the same room with Jesus. And I think that's kind of what strikes at the core of that cliche, is that religion is like the dance in a way. You can be there, Jesus can be in the same room. There's music and there's rituals and there's traditions, but in order to have a relational value with Jesus, you have to go across and talk to him. He's come to the dance, as it were, and anybody can go and talk to him and converse with him and ask him questions and see what he's about. But there's no relational value unless you cross that dance floor. And I think what people are saying when they say it's less about religion is they're saying it's less about the dance. Because the danger is that you attribute relational value to yourself and Jesus just by the fact that you're at the dance, that you're listening to the same music, that you're participating in rituals and participating in Jesus, and you begin to equate the dance relationally at the same value that you would relationally. There's no equivalence there. Your relationship with Jesus is based on your involvement with Jesus, not your involvement with the dance. And so I think that's what that is going after. John, what's funny about a relationship with Jesus too is one of his disciples, John, wrote, he said that if you have a relationship with Jesus, he really said, if you live in the light, like he's in the light. And what he's saying is, if you live in a relationship with Jesus, then you love other people. And because that's one of the signs of a relationship with Jesus, is the transfer to love other people. Because that's what Jesus is. That's who Jesus is. And as you are involved in a relationship with him, part of who he is begins to rub off on you. And you start to take on his attributes, and he changes you. You don't change him. He changes you, so that a relationship with Jesus is manifested by a relationship with others. It's loving God and loving your neighbor. And I think that isn't necessarily true if your relational value is found in the dance, because then you find yourself arguing about the music. And you find yourself arguing about the traditions or the rituals. When should we play the slow dance? Or, when should we announce the homecoming king and queen? And you start to argue about little components of how you think a dance should be run. And that shows a lack of relationship with Jesus. Because the concern when you have a relationship with Jesus becomes other people. And I think that's the key component of living in the light. And it says if you live in the light and you have fellowship with others, then the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross actually cleanses you from your sin. And if you want to look at sin in a constructive relational value way, sin is the separation of you out. You're out of relationship. You're out of the light. You argue about the dance. You argue about your favorite dance or the rituals at your dance or the traditions at your dance. Rather than seeing the people, the traditions, the dance becomes more important because your relational value is locked up in the dance. Your relational value is locked up in Jesus. So when people say, well, following Jesus is more about, it isn't about religion, it's more about a relationship. I think that's what they mean. You can't confuse the two. You have a relationship with Jesus through talking to him. I was talking with a guy the other day, and he says his best time talking to Jesus, he calls it windshield time. Because for his job, he has to drive some great distances. And he finds out that, talking to the windshield and keeping your eyes on the road is not closing your eyes to pray. He's able to talk things out with Jesus. He's able to say things and to think things and to ponder and meditate about things, and prayer time with him. You get it when you're reading the Bible, or when you're listening to the Bible, or when somebody reading you the Bible, or you got an audio book on tape, or audio Bible on tape, or anything like that, anything where you can hear the thoughts and the words that have been expressed through this Spirit. That provoke your thoughts, because our thoughts have relationships with each other. That's the success of advertising, right? They're trying to embed thoughts in your head to create desires which will lead to behaviors. And that's the same thing that goes on when you're reading the Bible. It's embedding thoughts in your head to combat other thoughts, or to provoke your desires into a behavior where you're a follower of Jesus rather than a follower of the world. And I think that's the thing. We want to always follow Jesus. We don't want to follow religion. We want our relationship with Jesus to inspire our religious activity. We don't want our religious activity to become equal with Jesus in terms of relational value. So that's our thought for Thursday. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I hope your Thursday is going well. Have a good day.